Alrighty. So, what you want to do is start with a full-sized um, piece of paper. So you're going to draw the instrument in full size, and you want it bigger because you're going to draw the front view and also the side view of the instrument. Um, what I do actually is I just take regular paper and I just tape them, many pieces together, so I don't, have to go and get some special big piece of paper. I just tape them together with masking tape and then flip it over. You know. Okay. So what you want to do is once you have your big piece of paper, you're going to start with drawing a long center line. Okay. So there we go. Nice and straight. Okay, I mean, you do it straight, not squiggly, but this is not to scale. This is just a small little thing I'm doing here. Okay, so you got the center line, and at the very edge of it there, you mark the tail of the instrument, okay? And way over, probably about here or whatever. I mean, okay, sorry. First thing you do, you have the tail, and then you measure in 8 centimeters, okay? 8 centimeters, and that's the bridge position. Okay? Then you go down, you measure another 68.5 centimeters, and that gives you the nut position. Okay? So the head will be from there, will be the head. Okay, so you have these two measurements that you start with. Okay? Then you want to measure. Okay, so you're gonna try to get at the widest point. Obviously, the sort of the shape is going to be coming around like this, more or less, and the widest point will be here. So this is going to be obviously just half of the instrument, and the total width of the soundboard is going to be. We're going to go for 28. For the total width. So just half is going to be 14. Okay, so you measure up half. So what your goal here is, right at the very beginning, your goal is you want to get a full size half, like a shape, half of the instrument, up to the nut only. Well, not up to the nut, actually, I'm sorry. From the nut, measure back 10 centimeters. Okay? And that will be where the ribs come to an end. Okay? And from this point onward, it's the head. So the head actually includes about 10 centimeters of neck. Now, none of these measurements are fixed in stone. You could have it further back this way, or you can have it a little further back this way, but probably not further than this. I think on the modern alternative Sarods, I make them about there because it has to all be hollow. So that has to be all hollowed out. But you can also, even if you did it there, you could hollow it out, just the upper surface of that. But anyways. For now, for these wood Sarods, about 10 centimeters back, so there to there is about 10. Okay, so there's the rib, okay, and okay. So as you notice here, this should be completely straight. Okay, it's a completely straight line, and then at a certain point, it starts to curve a little bit. Okay. So at the point where it starts to curve, we'll put a mark there. Okay, so that will be straight across there. So from the tail to this point where it starts to curve, that's approximately 34 centimeters. Okay, so 34 approximately. So you've got the width, you've got the length of the soundboard or whatever, and then the width at the nut should be about 5.5. So that means you would measure from the center line to there about 2.25, 2.25 centimeters, or 225 millimeters. Okay? Or, sorry, 22.5 millimeters. All right. What's next? Okay. So once you have these critical measurements, you can make a straight line. You measure that up, then you measure this up. Oh, sorry. This one total should be about 11, let's say. Okay, so that's from there to there is going to be 5.5. So you measure up there, put the mark. Measure your 2.5 centimeters, put the mark. Draw a straight line. Then you have your mark at 14, and then from there you make your shape. Okay, so you do that by hand the best you can. Now what you can do is you can because it helps you to visualize when you'll do this also, when you do this side also. Your goal is just to get one side perfect. Okay, this side you want to make it perfect. This side is, you'll draw that just to help you to visualize the total, because it's hard to visualize from only a half, like what it's going to look like. So draw the whole thing and tweak it a little bit here and tweak it that way and get so you have the shape that you like. Okay? Then once you have that shape that you like, what you do then is you take that and you cut it out. Okay, you cut this piece of paper. So you originally will do this not necessarily on your full sheet. Okay, you can do this on a more narrow sheet, because your goal is to get a cutout of this shape, the total length of the rib to the center line. Okay, you'll cut that out perfectly. Then what you're going to do is you're going to use that cutout on a full-size sheet of paper, and you will start by making a center line on that sheet of paper, and then you'll use this cutout piece and put it on the center line, so it's kind of on the center line, and you'll trace around. Okay, that'll give you one half. Then you'll flip it over to the other side, the center line, and you'll trace it around from the other side. And then that will give you, on your official full-size piece of paper, that will give you the perfect shape of the instrument. Okay? Because you've used the template from one side and then from the other side, and you've traced that. So that will give you the perfect shape. So that's how you'll get your drawing started. Okay? So taking that into consideration now, I'm just going to explain using this drawing, how do you get the rib shape template? Okay, so what you do, so let's assume that this is all perfect. Okay, this is the perfect shape. Then what you do is you start measuring from here all the way around 1 centimeter. Put a mark. 2 centimeters. 3 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 5 centimeters. You put these marks on there, okay? All the way around. Tuk, 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 tuk. You just put them all the way around. And especially every 10 centimeters, put, like this would be, these are too big, but every 10 centimeters you put up like a really strong mark, right? So for 10 centimeters, 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters, a really strong one, okay? Now what you do is you take another piece of paper and make another straight line, okay? And on this piece of paper, on this line, you mark also 1, 2, 3, 4 individual centimeters, okay? 5, 6 centimeters. And on 10, you make a strong one. That'll be 10, 11, 12, 13, blah, 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 20. Okay? So you do that. This is going to be your rib shape template, okay? This is going to just be the shape of it, anyways. So the next thing you do is, okay, let me backtrack a little bit here, because you want to figure out how many ribs you're going to use. Okay, so the way you do that is that you draw a circle, perfect circle. It's not perfect, but and then the same size. So in this case, this is going to be 28 centimeters. Okay, and 14 from there to there. 14 from there to there. So use a compass and make a perfect circle. Okay? So what we're going to do, what I'm going to get you to do, just to make it easy, is we're just going to go for 18 ribs in total. Now, I'll just explain this to you. So if you want to make different amounts of ribs or whatever, what you got to do is figure out. So I'll just explain how the 16 rib thing works. So if you cut that in half, cut this in half, cut this in half, then cut this in half, cut this in half, cut this in half, cut this in half. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, 8 plus 8 equals 16. Okay, now that's your basic number of ribs, but you will add on 2 more ribs, but these last 2 ribs are not shaped in this kind of shape. You just leave them, you just leave the whole pieces like that. So you won't trim, you won't use the rib shape template on the 2 final ribs. You'll just have it like this, and they'll come like this. You know? Okay? So so you make 16 ribs that you use with the rib shape template, 2 ribs that will just be full width all the way, be bent obviously, but 2 extra ribs. And that's just basically gives you a little more depth to the body. That's the idea behind around those 2 ribs. Okay. So as you see, then you have to calculate, right? So from this, you can measure. So forget about these last 2 ones for the moment, and then just go from here to here, and you can measure that exact distance. Okay, from there to there. You measure that, and you divide that number into how many ribs you have, and then you can, if you want to have different numbers of ribs, or whatever, if you want to make really thin ribs or small ones, you could just, say, okay, what if I make the ribs 3 centimeters wide? So then you can mark it 3 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 3 centimeters, and then you can just see how it works, or you can make it maybe 2 centimeters, 2 centimeters, 2 centimeters. You can find your own system, but you can basically use this to figure out how many ribs you're going to need, basically. So you calculate that by, like, this circle is this point. It's at the widest point of the body, okay? And you're looking at an end view, right? So the widest point, okay? So you're concerned about the widest point. So what you do now is once you've calculated how many ribs, and then you've calculated the exact width of one rib, okay? Let's just say, for example, that this will be 3 centimeters. Okay, so then what you do, and you do this with absolute accuracy. You draw, a baseline here, and then you draw. So it's 14. 14 is the basic. You call this the height, I guess. I don't know. The 40, that's the widest point. So then you come out here and you'll measure 14 up. Okay? 14 centimeters, and then mark 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay? Then here you'll measure precisely the width of the rib. And you say that's 3 centimeters, I don't know, whatever, 3 centimeters. Then you'll draw a perfectly straight line with a ruler, not by freehand, and go like that. Oops. Holding the camera here, looking through the camera. So yeah, you just draw that really perfectly straight and really sharp with a sharp pencil. Okay. So now this is a little bit tricky, but it's actually pretty easy. So you have the side view. You've got your, this is the number, this is going to be the rib shape template, okay, this line, and then you've got this view. It's almost like the back view of one rib, okay. So now, start with the first centimeter. Now measure the distance from the baseline to the first centimeter, okay. Now it's probably going to be basically 1, right? So then you transfer that up to 0, 1. Okay, you hardly can see that, I know, but 1. And then you'll measure the distance across there. So, I mean, this will look, it's easier to show you like once we, anyways, you measure the distance across there. And then whatever that distance is, here you're over here, this is the beginning, it's obviously 0, and here's 1. So you'll transfer that distance over here, so it'll be really small, just like a little small little, if it's like 4 millimeters, you would be 2 millimeters on this side, 2 millimeters on this side of the line, okay? So then you go back to here, and then you get the second one. Okay, so you measure up, how much is that? That's going to be also about 2, so then you go up about 2, and you measure the width. Transfer that over to here on the second, on 2. So it's going to be a little bit wider. So you keep going through this process. Number 3, and then it'll be a little wider, and a little bit wider, a little bit wider, a little bit wider, up until you reach this widest point. Okay, and then that'll be the widest point. And then it will start getting narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower and narrower until you get to this point, which will be how many centimeters, blah, 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 how many centimeters, whatever, until you get to that point. And then it's just going to be pretty much straight, all the way to the end. Okay? So once you've done that, then you just try to connect these dots as accurately as possible. Connect these dots. And then you cut that whole thing out. Okay? You cut that whole thing out. And then what I would recommend is transferring that, like taking that and transferring it onto perhaps one of your ribs, like ideally like a 2 millimeter thick piece of wood that you're going to, like the ribs are going to be like 2.5 millimeters thick. And so you transfer it onto one of those and then cut the shape and really make it as perfect as possible. Or you could transfer it onto a piece of like a cardboard or something like that. Something which is a little more sturdy than just a piece of paper. So that's your rib shape template. Now at 10 centimeters, 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters, 40 centimeters, every 10 centimeters make a strong line, okay, on your rib shape template. And also mark clearly the highest point, okay? That might not lie on a 10, 20, or 30, but mark the highest point. That's really important, okay? Well, I think that's about it for the rib shape template, actually. We're into this 20 minutes. And I could go on, but why don't we leave it? Why don't we just leave it there, and then you can make your rib shape template and as much of the drawing as you can manage. All right. Any questions? Just let me know. Thanks.